Somewhere in rural America, there are still houses sitting on actual land for less than the price of a new pickup truck. Not a parking spot, not a shed with plumbing, a house, a yard, trees, sometimes a barn, a garage, a deck, a fireplace, a mountain view, or enough empty space to make a normal apartment feel like a storage unit with a lease agreement. The strange part is not that one listing like this exists. The strange part is how many appear once you start looking in the parts of America most buyers skip without thinking. Old railroad towns, former coal towns, tiny lake communities, places where the jobs shifted, the population thinned out, and the houses stayed behind. Some of these homes look clean enough that you could move in without immediately forming a complicated emotional bond with a contractor. Others need work. Some need patience. A couple need the kind of optimism usually found in people who buy boats. Every property in this video comes with the same question attached. How is this still this cheap? Today, we're looking at 10 rural American homes that come with land and prices that make no sense. Not luxury homes, not staged Instagram farmhouses with white walls, linen curtains, and a dining table nobody eats at. These are real listings in real small towns with real trade-offs. The homes are in Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Oklahoma. Places where land still matters, roads get quiet, trees do most of the decorating, and your closest neighbor may or may not be a suspiciously confident raccoon. We're counting down from number 10 to number 1. By the end, the question will not be whether these homes are cheap. The question will be whether the life around them is something you could actually handle. Number 10. Bragg City, Missouri. We're starting with the house that looks least like a warning sign. This home on State Highway A in Bragg City, Missouri, was listed at $115,000 at the time I found it. For that price, you get 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, about 1,700 square feet, and 2 acres of land. It was built in 1960, but visually it does not have that cheap rural listing atmosphere where the first thing you do is check if the floor still believes in gravity. From the outside, it is an attractive country house with a soft yellow exterior. It looks cared for, not fancy, not aggressively renovated, just clean, solid, and lived in. Inside, the same feeling carries through. White and brown tones, wood accents, some stone-style decorative details on the walls, and a simple rural warmth that feels practical rather than staged. There's a small separate laundry room with an extra refrigerator, which is one of those details that tells you actual people lived here. Not a listing agent trying to make an awkward corner look like a lifestyle choice. The attic has also been finished into usable living space, giving the house more flexibility than the basic square footage suggests. Then you go outside and the property starts doing the heavier work. There are pecan trees, green grass, open space, and the kind of setting where the nearest neighbor does not appear to be studying your curtain habits. There is also a separate shop or barn structure with space for 2 vehicles. In rural America, a garage is nice. A real shop is useful. That is where tools go, equipment goes, unfinished projects go, and eventually several items you refuse to throw away because they may become important in 2037. The listing also mentions a Generac generator. Not glamorous, but in a rural area, it might be more useful than half the luxury features people brag about online. Power goes out, and you are still making coffee like society has not fully collapsed. Bragg City is tiny. It sits in Missouri's boot heel, down in Pemiscot County, where the state stretches toward Arkansas and Tennessee and starts to feel more like the Deep South than the Midwest. The place was not always called Bragg City. Early names included Owl City and Clayroot, which sounds like a children's book where every adult owns a tractor. The name Bragg City came in 1917 after W.G. Bragg, who owned land in the area. Like many small places in this part of Missouri, it grew around rail and agriculture. And like many small places in this part of America, it never became the kind of market where outsiders arrive with cash offers and ruin everything by Thursday. Kennett, Missouri is about 11 miles away, so you're not completely cut off. But this is still a rural county with a long population decline. Pemiscot County had more than 46,000 people in 1940. Today it is closer to the mid-teens. That is where the price starts making sense. You're not buying into a booming job market. You're not buying an easy commute to a major metro. And the house sits close to the road, so the peaceful rural fantasy does come with some traffic reality. Still, Bragg City sets the tone well. Cheap does not always mean destroyed. Sometimes it means overlooked. Number 9. Hazard, Kentucky. The next home looks almost too clean for the price, which is always the moment when a rational person becomes suspicious. In Hazard, Kentucky, this home on Hooterville Road was listed at $79,000 after a price cut. That gets you 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, about 1,060 square feet, and 1 acre of land. The house was built in 2006, and yes, it is a double wide. That alone will make some buyers dismiss it, because America has developed very firm opinions about which rectangles are allowed to count as respectable housing. But visually, this one does not feel cheap in the usual way. It is a good-looking grey home with a small covered porch, a modern exterior, and a detached garage. Inside, it is one of the strongest homes on the list. Light finishes, a clean-looking kitchen, updated appliances and bathroom fixtures, and large windows in the main living area. It feels like a place you could move into without spending the first 3 months learning the names of problems you did not know houses could have. No carpet that looks like it remembers the Carter administration. No kitchen cabinets begging for retirement. No obvious, we gave up in 1998 energy. That makes the price more interesting. Hazard is not just a random mountain town. It is one of the classic names of Appalachian Kentucky. The city began as Perry Courthouse, named for Perry County. The county itself was named after Commodore Oliver Hazard Perry, the naval officer from the War of 1812. The town name Hazard became official in the 1850s, and the city was incorporated in 1884. For a long time, Hazard was isolated by the mountains. Before the railroad arrived in 1912, getting there was not simple. Movement through the area depended on the North Fork of the Kentucky River and mountain routes. Once the railroad arrived, coal became the defining industry. Coal had always been there, but now the outside world could reach it. Hazard became part of the coal economy that built towns, supported families, and later left many places trying to figure out what comes after the boom. That is the larger context behind many affordable houses in eastern Kentucky. Sometimes the house is fine. The history around it is the complicated part. Hazard is not abandoned. It is still the county seat. It has Hazard ARH Regional Medical Center, which matters in a region where medical access can become a serious issue quickly. Buckhorn Lake is roughly 28 miles west, and the Daniel Boone National Forest region gives the area real outdoor appeal. You can see the compromise immediately in the photos. The house sits close to the road. There are other large structures nearby. This does not have the hidden-in-the-woods privacy some rural buyers picture. It is not a secluded mountain cabin. It is a clean, affordable home in a complicated Appalachian town. For a lot of buyers, that may be more useful than a cabin 40 minutes from the nearest carton of milk. Number 8. Ranger, West Virginia. This is where the video stops being polite. In Ranger, West Virginia, there's a home on Old Country Road listed at $40,000. $40,000 for 4 acres with a house. Before anyone starts packing a U-Haul and naming chickens, the house needs work. Not change the curtains work. Not paint the kitchen cabinets sage green and call yourself a homesteader work. Real renovation work. The home has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, about 1,680 square feet, and was built in 1979. From the outside, it is a small multi-level house surrounded by old trees and green space. It has privacy, mature growth, and that tucked-away Appalachian feeling people try to recreate in expensive cabin rentals. Inside, the romantic part takes a step back. The interior is rough. This is not a move-in-ready rural escape. It is the kind of listing where the land is the bargain and the house is the exam. There are still moments worth noticing. The kitchen is large and has panoramic windows, which gives it something you cannot fake. You can imagine the right person walking in and seeing the version that does not exist yet. A big kitchen, trees outside, 4 acres. Enough privacy to stop hearing other people's leaf blowers, which remains one of the underrated luxuries of human civilization. There's also a small outbuilding of some kind, maybe storage, maybe a shed, maybe a place where old lawn equipment goes to consider its choices. Ranger is an unincorporated community in Lincoln County, West Virginia, near WV Route 10. The name comes from Ranger Branch, a creek in the area. Lincoln County has deep Appalachian roots. European settlement in the region goes back to the late 1700s, with the McComas family settling near present-day West Hamlin around 1799. The county was created in 1867 and named after Abraham Lincoln. This is a place shaped by rivers, timber, coal, and small communities tucked into valleys. It is not a hot real estate market. It is not trying to become the next Asheville. It is not one coffee shop away from a lifestyle magazine feature. That helps explain how 4 acres and a house can sit at $40,000. What you are buying here is work, risk, and the possibility that the roof, floors, electrical, plumbing, or all of the above may want to become your new full-time hobby. This is not for someone who says, "I'm pretty handy," because they assembled a nightstand once. It is for someone who understands construction, has money for repairs, or has the emotional resilience of a mountain goat. Still, the basic appeal is hard to miss. 4 acres, privacy, trees, and a price that looks like it fell out of a different decade. Number 7. Big Sandy, Tennessee. Big Sandy is the point in the list where the house stops being the whole story. This 2-bedroom, 2-bath home on White Oak Drive was listed at $82,500. It has about 1,200 square feet, sits on 1.16 acres, and was built in 1982 as a manufactured home. From the outside, the building is long and low, with green and white metal siding. It is not the type of home that makes people slam the brakes just to admire the architecture. Then the setting starts doing the work. Mature hardwood trees surround the property. The whole place has a leafy, wooded feeling, almost like the home has been tucked into the edge of a forest. The listing notes that water is just a few minutes walk away, and there is a huge wooden deck which changes the mood completely. A cheap manufactured home with a small kitchen is one thing. A cheap manufactured home surrounded by trees, near water, with a giant deck and a place to park a boat starts to become a different calculation. Inside, the updates are practical. The listing includes brand new flooring, modern plumbing, and energy-efficient windows. The living room has wood on the walls and floors, giving it a cabin-like feel. The kitchen is small and not especially fresh, but there is a window over the sink, which at least gives the room a fighting chance. The bathroom looks decent, with newer-looking fixtures, and the home feels usable in the way that actually matters. Outside, there's a large detached carport big enough for a boat or pontoon. That detail is not random. Big Sandy sits near Kentucky Lake, one of the major outdoor anchors in this part of Tennessee. The town was settled around 1861 and incorporated in 1903. It grew around the Memphis and Ohio Railroad, with a water tank and fuel yard helping form the early settlement. Today, Big Sandy is a quiet community in Benton County, about 16 miles from Paris, Tennessee. The surrounding area is tied to the lake, hunting, fishing, boating, and wildlife land. Big Sandy Wildlife Management Area covers about 2,370 acres of river bottom hardwoods, croplands, and swamps along the Big Sandy River and Kentucky Lake. Paris Landing State Park, on the western shore of Kentucky Lake, covers more than 1,100 acres. So the price is not just about the house. It is about what kind of life you're willing to accept around it. Trees, water nearby, a deck, a place to park the boat, a home that does not care if your shoes are muddy. The kitchen is not going to cause anyone to weep over countertop quality. It is manufactured. Urban convenience is not the point. This one is for someone who wants woods, water, and a deck more than granite countertops. Number 6. Coalgate, Oklahoma. With Coalgate, the most interesting part of the listing may not be the house at all. This property on Lake Street was listed at $60,000. It has 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, about 1,200 square feet, and according to the listing data, around 2.6 acres, though the description mentions 1.6 acres. A buyer would need to verify that. Either way, the acreage is not what gives this property its personality. The barn does. It comes with a barn that has electricity, water, and horse stables. That changes the whole listing. Without it, this is a cheap house needing work in a small Oklahoma town. With it, the property turns into a small horse setup for someone with more ambition than budget, which is more or less the fuel source of rural real estate. The house looks better outside than the price suggests. The roof and siding appear newer, and the listing notes a metal roof. Newer siding, water and gas lines installed in November 2024, and piers and beams replaced. Those are not glamorous updates. Nobody starts daydreaming because the beams sound exciting. But structurally, those details matter. Then comes the obvious gap. No interior photos. In real estate, no interior photos usually means one of two things. Either the seller forgot or the house declined to participate. The listing says the property needs TLC, which is the polite version of bring tools and manage your expectations. Coalgate gives this one a sharper backstory than the photos can provide. The town is the county seat of Coal County, and the name is not decorative. Coalgate began as a coal mining camp, originally called Liddell. On January 23, 1890, the name changed to Coalgate. Between 1910 and 1916, the area was deep in its mining boom, with thousands of people working in coal mines. In 1910, Coalgate had a population of 3,255. By 2020, it was down to 1,667. That pattern explains a lot of small-town pricing. A place grows around one economy. The economy fades. The houses remain. The barns remain. The land remains. And the price starts looking strange to anyone coming from a market where $60,000 barely buys a garage. Coalgate is not without services. Coal County General Hospital is in town and has served the community for decades. That changes the rural equation because cheap feels different when medical help is nearby, compared with a plan that mostly involves driving fast and hoping. The unknowns are still real. The house may need serious interior work. The property is not deeply private. There are neighbors and a road nearby. But the barn, the stables, the acreage, and the price give it a specific role in the list. Not the prettiest house, the one where someone sees the barn and immediately begins making questionable plans involving horses. Number 5. Delray, West Virginia. Delray is the small one, and it does not pretend otherwise. This furnished cabin on Voltage Hill was listed at $69,000. It has 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 576 square feet, and sits on 5.01 acres. So no, this is not where you move with 3 kids, 2 dogs, a drum set, and a Costco membership. It is a cabin for 1 or 2 people, a weekend place, a low-maintenance escape, or a home for someone who has decided the modern world has become too loud and would like to unsubscribe. Built in 2006, the cabin sits on a mostly wooded 5-acre parcel. About an acre is cleared around the home, which gives you usable yard space without losing the forested feeling. Visually, it is simple and well kept. There is a good-sized deck, which is important because a tiny cabin needs some outdoor room to breathe. Inside, the place is compact but functional. For 576 square feet, the kitchen is better than expected. The rooms are small, the bathroom is small but nice, and the older furniture fits the cabin more than it fights it. The bedroom has a wooden set that gives the interior a classic mountain feel without trying too hard. There is also a separate shed or outbuilding for storage. At this size, storage is not a bonus. It is survival. The land is the real draw. A cleared grassy area around the cabin, woods beyond that, and a sense of privacy that feels like the whole point. Delray sits in Hampshire County, West Virginia, one of the oldest counties in the state. Hampshire County was created in the 1750s and named after Hampshire, England. This is not the same story as the coal towns of southern West Virginia. It is more of a rural mountain edge, not wildly far from Winchester, Virginia. Delray is roughly 33.5 road miles from Winchester, depending on route. Nearby, Capon Springs has its own long history. The springs were once known as Fry's Springs, and in 1787, the Virginia General Assembly created a town called Watson around the site. Capon Springs Resort later became one of the historic destinations in the area. So this cabin is not floating in random nowhere. It sits in an old mountain county with history, outdoor appeal, and some distance from major cities without being completely unreachable. The limitation is simple: 576 square feet. That is not a lot of house. It is barely enough room for someone who owns too many opinions, let alone too much furniture. But if the goal is 5 wooded acres, a furnished cabin, a deck, and quiet, the price starts to make sense in a way that city rent does not. Number 4. Warsaw, Missouri. The Warsaw house is not the prettiest one on the list, and it is better to admit that early. This manufactured home on Falling Rock Avenue was listed at $60,000. It has 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, 980 square feet, and sits on 2.87 wooded acres. From the outside, the home is plain. Grey metal siding, simple shape, very much built to function rather than pose. If the house had a personality, it would probably say, "I'm not here for compliments." But the property around it is doing a lot. Inside, things improve. There is a wood-burning fireplace in the living room, light-colored walls, newer-looking flooring, and a small kitchen with decent storage. The full bathroom has been refreshed, with modern fixtures and a good bathtub. There is also a covered screened deck, which in a wooded Missouri setting is less of a luxury and more of a defense system against mosquitoes with ambition. Outside, the listing becomes more interesting. Wooded acres, a fence separating the property from the road, a barbecue area, a detached two-car metal carport, and a storage shed. The description also mentions a valley view and a public boat ramp within 5 minutes, giving access to Truman Lake. That is what changes the math. This is not a luxury lake house. It is a modest manufactured home near one of Missouri's major lake regions, with enough land and outbuildings to feel useful. Warsaw itself has more history than its size suggests. It is the county seat of Benton County, founded in 1837 and incorporated in 1843. The town was named after Warsaw, Poland, in honor of Tadeusz Kościuszko, the Polish military engineer and American Revolutionary War figure. The area is tied to the Osage River, Truman Lake, and the Lake of the Ozarks region. Harry S. Truman Dam and Reservoir is one of the defining features nearby. Construction was authorized in 1954, began in August 1964, the reservoir was renamed by Congress in 1970, and the dam was completed in 1979. Truman Reservoir is the largest flood control reservoir in Missouri, with a normal pool of around 55,600 acres and a flood pool that can exceed 200,000 acres. That kind of outdoor infrastructure makes a modest property feel more useful. Fishing, boating, weekends at the lake, a place to park the car, store tools, light the fireplace, and stop pretending an apartment balcony counts as outdoor living. The compromise is visible. Manufactured home, plain exterior, a $20 monthly HOA fee, no luxury lake house fantasy. But luxury lake houses cost luxury lake house money. This is the cheaper, less glamorous version for someone who wants trees, lake access, and a fireplace without entering a bidding war against someone named Brad with cash. Number 3. Pocola, Oklahoma. Pocola is rural, but not in the same way as some of the more isolated places on this list. This house on Cowan Lane was listed at $78,000. It has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 1,236 square feet, and sits on 1 acre. Built in 1983, it has wood siding, a metal roof, central heat and air, an eat-in kitchen, a mudroom or storage room, and a covered front porch. The lot has large pine trees, grass, and a natural setting with trees and shrubs around it. Visually, the home has character. Wood siding, a metal-sided addition, stone and wood details in the living room, and a kitchen that looks usable. It is not finished in the comfortable way some buyers would want. Some rooms need repair. The listing says it needs TLC and is being sold as is. It also says the home was priced below an October 2024 appraisal. So the strongest part is not the polish. It is the setting, the roof, the land, and the location. 1 acre, trees, metal roof, covered porch, a price below appraisal. That is enough to make the listing worth looking at, even before the town context. Pocola is in Leflore County, near the Arkansas border and close to Fort Smith. The name Pocola comes from a Choctaw word meaning 10, because the area was about 10 miles from Fort Smith. That distance matters. Many cheap rural homes come with a hidden bill in the form of no nearby jobs, no nearby services, and no real regional economy. Pocola functions more like a rural community near the Fort Smith metro area. There is also Civil War history nearby. The Battle of Devil's Backbone took place near the area on September 1st, 1863. Pocola incorporated much later in 1963. One reason was to secure water rights connected to the McClellan-Kerr Arkansas River navigation system and avoid being annexed by neighboring communities. By 2020, the population was 4,255. So no, this is not a ghost town. It is not glamorous either, but it has a more stable regional context than some other entries. Choctaw Casino and Resort in Pocola is another major local landmark, and Fort Smith is close enough to shape the local economy. The story here is more practical than dramatic. This is a rural property near a real metro edge, priced low because the house needs work and the market still treats it very differently from places where 1 acre and a roof would already trigger a bidding war. No huge barn, no lake, no mountain view, no perfect interior. Just trees, space, a metal roof, and a house that needs a buyer with some tolerance for unfinished business. Number 2. West Hamlin, West Virginia. Old houses are dangerous because they make people sentimental before they make people realistic. You see big windows, wood-paneled walls, a front porch, a garage, and suddenly the phrase "good bones" appears, which is often real estate language for expensive surprises wearing charm. This home on Bear Creek in West Hamlin, West Virginia, was listed at $64,500. It has 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, about 1,500 square feet, and 1.5 acres. It was built in 1905. That gives it a different feeling from the manufactured homes and cabins on this list. This is an older country house with history, space, and a layout that probably made sense to people who did not own 6 chargers and an air fryer. From the outside, it is a white house with a grey roof and a covered porch. Based on the photos, the roof may need attention, and the listing makes it clear the property is being sold as is with no repairs made by the seller. Inside, the home is dated. The walls are covered in wood paneling. The carpet looks ready for retirement. The finishes are not modern, but the rooms look fairly large. There is a big kitchen with a large window over the sink. Many rooms have large windows, so the house has more natural light than expected. There is one central room without windows, which is always a little strange. Every old house has at least one room that exists because someone made a decision decades ago and everyone after that just accepted it. The bathroom looks decent. The attached 2-car garage is a major practical feature at this price. There's also a small shed outside. The land is mostly lawn, with trees on one side and the road on the other. It does not have deep privacy, but it does have space. West Hamlin sits in Lincoln County along the Guyandota River. The town had a population of 519 at the 2020 census and belongs to the broader Huntington-Ashland metro region. That makes this property rural without being impossibly remote. West Hamlin is roughly 22 miles by car from Huntington and about 41 road miles from Charleston. The region's history runs deep. The McComas family settled near present-day West Hamlin around 1799. Lincoln County itself was created in 1867 and named after Abraham Lincoln. The local economy has long been tied to timber, coal, small communities, and the Guyandota River. The house needs work, possibly a lot. The listing says it can be customized with a full renovation or used as a starting point to build your dream home from the ground up. That is a very polite way of saying the seller does not want to hear about your inspection report. Still, at $64,500 with 1.5 acres, a 1905 house, big rooms, natural light, and a 2-car garage, the bones are there. The real question is whether you want to live with those bones while they become expensive. Number 1. Excello, Missouri. We're ending with the house that feels the most complete. Not the biggest, not the cheapest, not the most dramatic. Just the easiest to imagine someone actually living in without making the entire move a personality test. This home on East Press Street in Excello, Missouri was listed at $99,500. It has 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, 798 square feet, and 1.25 acres. It was built in 1910, but visually it feels clean, tidy, and cared for. The exterior is one of the best in the whole list. Dark green metal siding, a metal roof, a covered entry porch, and a small country house shape that looks simple in a good way. It is not trying too hard. It is just standing there quietly, looking like it knows it is better than half the houses under $100,000. Inside, the home is not brand new, but it is clean. There is a large kitchen, wood trim around the doors, spacious bedrooms for the size of the house, and a bathroom combined with laundry that has a surprising amount of storage. It is small, yes, but it feels organized. A small house that is well planned can feel like a home. A small house that is badly planned feels like a storage unit with plumbing. Outside, there is green lawn, trees, and a large garage or workshop for one vehicle, with space for storage or projects. The listing notes a low-maintenance exterior, metal siding, metal roof, and the oversized garage for parking, storage, or workshop use. This is the kind of house that makes paying a little more feel understandable. At almost $100,000, it is not the shock price entry on this list. It may be the one where the price makes the most practical sense. Excello itself is tiny, very tiny. At the 2020 census, the population was 61. That is not a town. That is a group text with zoning. Excello sits in Macon County, about 8 miles south of Macon and 16 miles north of Moberly, near US Route 63. The post office has operated under the name Excello since 1869. The Wabash Railroad established a station there in the 1880s, and the community grew around nearby coal mining. Macon County had its own coal history. Commercial coal mining around Macon expanded after coal was discovered in 1860, and railroads helped shape the county's development in the late 1850s. Even this clean little house is part of a familiar pattern. Railroad comes in, industry grows, time passes, the world moves on, the town gets smaller, the house remains. Because most buyers are not searching in places with 61 people, a clean old home on 1.25 acres can still sit under $100,000. The limitations are obvious. It is small, the town is tiny, the house is modest. This is not for someone who needs nightlife, delivery options, or the emotional support of a target within 12 minutes. But it has a metal roof, a clean interior, a garage workshop, a yard, trees, and a price that still sounds almost suspicious in today's market. That is why it lands at number 1. After looking at cabins, fixer-uppers, barns, manufactured homes, and old houses with complicated futures, this one feels like the simplest version of the idea. A small house, a little land, a garage, a quiet place, and a price that does not require becoming a tech executive or inheriting money from a mysterious uncle nobody mentioned before. So what do these 10 homes actually tell us? Not that rural America is magically cheap. It is cheap for reasons. Sometimes the reason is industry leaving. Sometimes it is distance. Sometimes it is a tiny town with limited services. Sometimes it is a house that needs more work than the photos feel comfortable admitting. Sometimes it is simply because most buyers are trained to look in the same overheated markets, while places like Bragg City, Hazard, Ranger, Big Sandy, Coalgate, Delray, Warsaw, Pocola, West Hamlin, and Excello barely make it onto the radar. These homes are not perfect. Some are not even close. But they prove that there are still pockets of America where land, privacy, a workshop, a barn, a deck, a fireplace, or a few acres of trees have not completely detached from normal money. You just have to accept the trade-offs. No fantasy version. No move here and all your problems disappear. Just real houses, real towns, real prices, and real reasons behind them. Maybe that is more interesting than the fantasy anyway. The question is not just, could you buy one? The question is, could you actually live there? And that is where the story gets complicated.